Good afternoon, St. Joseph's. Hi, I'm Anton from the SLT. We have Mark from Stewardship, and we have Father Brett. We're just going to ask him a few questions and find out about stewardship and Father's view on it. We've obviously heard through the weeks. We've heard from Teresa and Father Malusi having a chat. We've heard from Marilla and Sean having a chat. We've heard from Mark having a chat by himself. And now we've got to get the true perspective from Father. True perspective. We've heard from the parishioners, and we'd like to ask Father a few questions on stewardship, and he's revitalised back from his holiday.
That's pushing it.
And we're just going to ask him a few questions.
Good. I'm happy to be here. I'm sort of happy to be back with all of you. But it's always good to talk about discipleship, and I think that's the core of this. You know, it's so easy to separate stewardship from discipleship, and yet the two are intimately connected. We can't be stewards and still claim to be disciples of Jesus. And my work is about creating disciples. That's what I'm ordained for, to bring people to know and love Jesus and to follow Jesus, to school them in the ways of discipleship. And so stewardship is not something outside of that, it's something intimately connected with that. So yeah, I'm happy to talk stewardship, not necessarily money, but stewardship. Yeah.
I think, just chatting to my son about this, and he was saying, Dad, I saw that video you did, but what's the sort of, why does the church need all this money? It surely can't cost that much to run a church and have masses and things like that. So maybe, Father, you can tell us a bit more where this financial implications of our stewardship is dished out and where it all goes.
Yeah, sure, Mark. I think it's important for us to start from the understanding that there are costs associated with keeping the lights on, using the data, paying for our tea, all those sorts of things. Those are what we would call running expenses, maintenance costs. And those, however much we would like to reduce them, we cannot totally eradicate them. And so that's part of our budget, that's part of our thinking, our financial planning. But associated with being the church are what we should be looking at more, I think, and that's mission costs. What does it cost us to get the gospel out? To bring others to know and love Jesus, because that's why we exist. We could do without all this, but we can't do without proclaiming Jesus to others. That's why we are the church. And so I would say when we're looking at a budget, we should look at those maintenance costs and look at those mission costs. In most parishes, most Catholic parishes around the world, very often we focus on those maintenance costs. And in many ways, that's what consumes so much of our energy. We've got to pay these huge electricity bills or food bills or staff bills and all those sorts of things. And as I say, they are important. But here at St. Joseph's, we're wanting to get those under control and to carefully manage them so that we have more money for mission. Mission should be where our main focus is. I haven't looked at the budget for this coming year, but last year we were about 60-40. In other words, 60% focused on maintenance and 40% on mission. Now, in my opinion, that should be the other way around. But we can only start to really focus on mission if everyone takes seriously their discipleship. So, yeah, there's certain things that we have to keep going. We need a staff because they're not only maintenance, they also help with the mission. So it's not clearly maintenance mission. Some, overlap. Obviously, feeding the parish priest, there's a maintenance issue, but there's also a mission issue component. So it's not always easy, but this parish gives very nearly 50,000 rand every month to the diocese, which goes, you mentioned it this Sunday, Mark, on your little video, which goes to those parishes and communities that are in greater need. We also here in this parish give 60,000 rand a year to the education of seminarians and 60,000 rand a year to the bursary fund for the diocese. No, that's wrong. 10,000, no? 6,000 rand a month, 6.6.
72,000.
Yeah, 72,000 rand a year. So we are having outreach and we are helping and looking at what we are called to do beyond this parish boundary. Things that do make a real difference in the lives of people.
I think, Father, that to achieve that, though, we've got to swing that balance around, the 60-40.
Correct.
I think the only way by doing that is if everyone contributes something.
Correct.
It doesn't matter if it's big, small, large, medium,
Yeah.
whatever they can.
Yeah.
So if we get the base, everyone contributing what they can, we lift up the base value, we can swing the 60-40 around, because our monthly costs are
Reasonably well under
stable.
control and stable.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I think that's where we've got
Yeah.
to.
And that's exactly why stewardship and discipleship are linked. We are all called to proclaim the gospel, not just me. Each and every, you do it with your families, your friends. You proclaim the gospel. So your mission is in your little areas of influence and experience. But you need help, you need formation, and that's what the parish does, that we help you. We should be involved in training and equipping men and women to be disciples, and that's where we need money for formation and for experiences of what it means to be disciples. And so that's how the link is established between stewardship and discipleship. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I think
Would your son be satisfied?
I think he would be. Yeah.
Good.
I think also in the succession plan too. You know, you've got to get new blood in. We all know with education that education doesn't come cheap, even if it's a non-profit situation. You've got to have the facilities. You've got to have the lecturers.
Yeah.
You've got to have the resources. So we've got to contribute towards those to get some young blood in. So that the average age of our priests can maybe drop from 60 to about 40.
Yeah, you see, so if you, about 2-3 years ago, the cost about to educate a seminarian from beginning to end, so, you know, a young chap comes in and we produce a priest, how much does that cost us? And it's about 1.5 million rand over the 7, 8 years that it cost. So, I think it's a reasonable, $1 million plus over that time. It's not crazy. But if we're wanting priests, if we're wanting to staff our parishes, we want to maintain our parishes, all those maintenance costs are there, plus the mission understanding of what that's for. So the costs, we must always, it's not about, when we appeal during stewardship months, it shouldn't be about meeting a budget. There's a bigger thing here. It's about us giving for the work of the church. And that's really, really central, I think, for all of us to grasp. It's not, I'm going to give this money so that we can keep the lights on. We're giving this money so that Jesus can be known in the world. Yeah.
And other pillars of all stewardship campaigns are your time and talents.
Yeah.
What do you say to sort of parishioners now with that COVID and lockdown and saying they can't participate, they can't do anything? There has been some restrictions, obviously there's been less readers and less people in hospitality, but it's opened up a little bit now. What do you say to people that on the time and talent side, how they can contribute now that things are opening up a bit?
Yeah, it's been a huge restriction and limitation to so many people, myself included. how we exercise our ministry. Giving of our treasure shouldn't have been constrained too much by this, because we can still give financially even if we're not actually doing any ministry or we're not coming to church. I think I know COVID is changing so many aspects of our living, and it's changing the church too in a significant way. And anyone who's read my emails or listened to me on different platforms, but this YouTube channel as well, will have heard that I've spoken over and over again about how the church is going to have to change, how it's going to have to adapt to this new reality. The reality that we're going to have a physical campus, the parish buildings and church, where people will exercise their ministry, come to worship, and participate in community life to an extent. But we're also going to have an online campus, an online presence, where we can still worship, where we can still find community. But the challenges of how we do that and how we exercise ministry is really very real. I've had to adapt. I never thought I would sit in front of a camera with my parish having a YouTube channel. That's not how I was taught to be a priest, but I've had to adapt because of that. And I think each and every ministry will have to find ways of adapting. And I think we will need, as individual Christians, to find new ways of reaching out to others, of serving others, that may not necessarily be liturgical ministries. We've got so used to it, and perhaps this is the failing in stewardship campaigns that look at time and talents. We see stewardship as helping Father in the church. That can't be that. That should, yes, it's necessary to have flower ministers and ministers of the Eucharist and ministers of the Word, and people who teach catechism, all those things. Yes, they do help me. But those should be, we should never be considering our ministry, our service, as helping Father. It's, no, I, as a baptized Catholic Christian, am baptized prophet, priest, and king. That priestly thing is my ministry dimension. And so where do I find ways in this new reality where I can serve, where I can be a minister to the world? And so, we're going to see, I'm sure, we're going to see people doing ministries outside. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. I've always said to people, if there's no ministry or job or activity on the stewardship form that they get sent, and they'd rather do something else, of course, come and tell me that list it's never been an exhaustive list. The people are welcome to use their different gifts and talents outside of this community. But as long as we're doing it motivated by the knowledge that Jesus is calling us to use the gift I have for this work in the service of others and the building up. So I think we will start to see more, I would hope, Anton, we would see more ministries going out. That it's not, I have to come to the parish church to minister. That's where Father ministers, yes, with a few helpers. That's what I'm ordained to do, really, in here. But my job is to try and help you minister outside these walls. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we could raise, from a financial perspective, we could raise an additional amount of income. I would imagine there's a talent that maybe is not available in our parish that would be a resource here from an administrative perspective. What would that sort of role be? If we could raise an extra 15,000 a month, for example, to pay a salary to someone who says, right, I need a salary, I'm a professional at what I do, what would the sort of services you look for that would raise the bar, if I could say?
I think first of all, Mark, so many people haven't the foggiest clue of how busy and how crazy our parish office can be. I think some Catholics think that, we work on Sunday mornings and maybe a few Saturday mornings. but it's really crazy busy. So I think, parish admin is an area, but that, I wouldn't like to see us focusing too much on that at the moment. We've looked, and I know people will be aware that we put an advert out for a pastoral assistant. Anton's on the SLT with me, so he has a sense of what we've been looking at. My idea is that we're very lucky in this parish in that we've got a retired old priest who makes an appearance now and again. Well, pre-COVID he did more, of course. And we've got young priests who come in to assist me because of my role next door. And so, as far as the clergy are concerned, we're covered in many ways. We're a lot better off than many others. In addition, we've got Lloyd, Paul, who's studying for the diaconate. He's a candidate. So hopefully in more than a couple of years, but in a few years, Lloyd will have a married permanent deacon. And so as we look at the parish from that perspective, we tick the boxes. But Mark, I think there are areas that we are missing because of our paradigm, our focus, and also the craziness of being ministering as priests. And that is where I think this pastoral assistant that we looked at trying to get on board, we've put a sort of stop on it now because we battled to find the person. Those other areas where, especially, for example, a woman, and I'm not saying that we're looking only at women to fulfill this role, but I do think that would be our primary focus. A woman, a mother perhaps, who has some understanding of the needs of the laity from a different perspective. And I think there are holes, areas where perhaps we're not getting as much pastoral input and traction as we could because of how our pastoral team is set up at the moment. So if I had a blank check and we could hire some really, I would be looking at a pastoral assistant, a lay person, a woman most probably, that would come with the ability to minister into those areas that perhaps celibate, male, middle-aged, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that about Father Malusi, but bald, yes, but priests would have. So I think that's an area we need to look at, and I would love to be able to meet that need in a real way.
Well, let's expect to see a few CVs coming through.
And the money to run it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You got any more questions for me?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's an annual sort of discussion that one has, and every year it might take on a different sort of angle. But I suppose at the end of the day, it's really looking at a parish that has a wonderful congregation of members from all walks of life. I mean, I know there's some very wealthy members and some very poor members here. But what are your feelings on everybody committing financially? That's, you talk about talents and stuff, but even someone says, I really can't even afford to put 5 rand in at Mass. What are your thoughts on that?
What are you saying?
Give
Give me a chance to think about it. I just went through a few, asked somebody at work, because I have no idea, so what does a pack of cigarettes cost? So they said something 40 to 50 rand. I don't know. Then I thought, well, what does a 6-pack of beers cost? So it's about 70 rand, 80 rand. These are vices, but we could choose anything actually.
Yeah.
We could choose.
Could be a takeout.
Real takeout, or
could be a lot of takeout.
So I think there's always scope for something, irrespective of where you're at.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be giving up the vice, but I think there's always scope.
Yeah,
Trying to think about that.
Thank you. We have in the parish those 5 expectations that Father James highlights in his book, and there is the division between offering our time and our gifts in service, in ministry, and that they consider separately to our financial giving. In other words, yes, we are expected to do both. And so some people may think, oh, well, I don't give any money, but I do this, this, and this. I don't think it's an either-or scenario. As well as people say, oh, well, I give lots of money, I don't need to do anything in the parish. It's not an either-or. The two need to come together. We should be serving, and our expectation in this parish, as you know, is that everybody should be in one ministry at least. And in light of your previous question, that ministry may be not a formal parish ministry, it may find its expressions elsewhere. But am I serving God's people in some way, using the gifts I have? And then, yes, one of the precepts of the church is that we support the church financially. We here in the parish talk about our expectation that we do that. I think Anton is right in many ways. There are very, very few people that can't afford to give something. And it truly is, the story of the widow's mite, putting in a few pennies. That's okay. And that concept is present in the diocese. So, for example, we spoke about our stewardship, our levies, those nearly 50,000 rand that we give every month. Every parish in the Archdiocese gives. Every parish is taxed, even the very poorest, because the bishop believes in the importance of everybody, no matter how poor we are, give. Obviously, those poorer parishes give less than we do, of course, but they also then receive from the diocese, whereas we wouldn't receive anything from the diocese. We are what they call self-supporting. So, but the principle is there, that if we're all in this together, and we all have something. You may have a lot more than me. That doesn't matter. Everybody needs to give. We may then have to help more certain parishes, and that's fine. So, but that everybody gives, and I take that really seriously, and so that's why I tithe. I believe that I cannot ask you or anybody in the parish to do something that I'm not willing or able to do myself. That would be inauthentic. That would be duplicitous in many ways. So I take that serious. I fill in my form. I submit it. Sometimes I have to be reminded to make my contribution because I forget, like everybody. But I do believe that if I can do it, everybody can do it. And it doesn't, when you talk about tithe, 10%, for a Catholic, when you talk like that, then we start to, alarm bells ring and they want to run out of the place screaming. I think it's not about 10%. In fact, it's not about a percentage. It's about, what am I giving? What am I? Is it truly realistic? Is it truly what God is asking me to give? Because I think we give in response to God. So is this what God is asking me to do? And I gave last year. What did I give last year? Should I improve it? Can I increase it? Or am I going to keep giving the same amount that I gave 20 years ago now? So I think it's a dynamic, fluid process that everybody needs to engage in and everybody is capable of doing. There's a question here. Okay. The Pope says that sacrament of the production is okay because it is for the greater good. Well, it's not really a stewardship question, but I'm happy to answer it, Gloria. The Pope has never said that. I don't know what you're reading, but he has not said that sacrificing babies is good for vaccines. The moral theologians in the Vatican have all considered this and have made a very clear decision regarding the moral or ethical standpoint regarding vaccines. Vaccines are for the common good. We definitely should all be vaccinated against this virus. But we're not sacrificing babies to achieve that, Gloria. I don't know where you're reading that. If you're happy to dialogue with me outside of this forum, which is looking primarily at financial stewardship, I'm happy to do so. You're welcome to phone the parish office and make an appointment to see me. I'm happy to dialogue with you with that. Good. Happy.
I think we've exhausted all
I think
the
we've
avenues
spoken
now.
quite a lot, yeah.
So folks, I think there we have it. We've heard it from the horse's mouth here. But yeah, it really, I think every year, and as we grow older and wiser and grey and bolder, we learn more about stewardship, and we learn about really what it's all about. So hopefully today's session and the few videos we've had have really helped you deal with your conscience and know what you feel is correct, as Father says. It's not a 10%. If any of us are giving 10%, well, that's fantastic. But as you know, I think that's a lot of money for a large part of one's budget, I suppose. But we often talk about budgeting, and I think that's one of the things that we should be doing. Is I'm a financial advisor, and I always encourage my clients to budget. If you don't know how you spend your money or how you earn your money, you're going to really get pretty lost in the whole process. So stick to your budget. I know it's hard. It's the same conversation I have daily with my clients. Just stick to it, and even through the tough times, we've just got to dig deep and hang in there, because we do make commitments, and I think those commitments are really important to not only our parish, but our whole diocese and the whole Catholic Church going from strength to strength. So thanks for listening to us, and all the best.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I
Thank you,
enjoyed it.
Joseph.
Cheers, hey guys. God bless. Bye-bye.